The first skill we covered in geometry was basic geometry vocabulary and notation. So let's go through the notes and then take a look at the review for this section. Geometry was built by Euclid, who started with these three undefined terms, point, line, and plane, and combined them in a variety of ways to create the entire topic. Points look like this. There's a location in space with no size. It's named by one capital letter. We might call this X or point X. Lines look like this. There's 2 points and they extend in 2 directions infinitely. We can label them based on those 2 points, A, B, with a line above it, with arrows heading in both directions. The order doesn't matter, so we could say BA. And also, we can name the line based on this cursive lowercase letter. For example, this is line M. Planes look like this. Think of it like a sheet of paper. It's a flat 2-dimensional plane. It's determined by any 3 points on the plane extending infinitely in all directions. The one thing we can't do is pick 3 points that are all on the same line. So if you look here, A, B, and C are not all on the same line, so that works. We draw this little symbol that means plane, and we can say plane ABC, or BAC, or CBA. The order doesn't really matter. The convention is to use alphabetical order. K is not a point on this plane, but we can also call this plane K. Couple true things in geometry. Through any 2 points, there is exactly 1 line. And through any 3 points that are not on the same line, there's exactly 1 plane. So that's why when we name planes, we have to make sure that the points we choose are going to not be on the same line. A couple of defined terms. A segment. They look like this. We could call this segment AB or segment BA. Notice the difference. The line above it does not have the arrows because we have 2 endpoints and all of the points in between. Segments do not extend in every direction. Rays look like this. They extend in one direction. They start with an endpoint. And the arrow above AB has to point toward B because that is the direction that it extends infinitely. If we tried to label this as BA, that would be wrong. Opposite rays are 2 rays that share a common endpoint and continue infinitely in opposite directions. So ray XY and ray XZ are opposite rays. Some more vocabulary. 2 points on the same line we can call collinear. Co is that prefix that means with or together. And points that are on the same plane we can call coplanar. If we look at line EF, that is this line here, there's only 2 points on that line. So EF is one name. Another name is FE. Make sure that you have the line above it with both of the arrows. We can also call this line M. For plane A is not a point on the plane, so we can't identify that as one of the points. But there's quite a few points that are C, E, D, and B. Notice that F is not on the plane. So pick any of those other than A. Maybe we'll pick BCE, and that's one of the names you could use for that plane. Out of the few lines that are in this diagram, this is the only line that has 3 points on the same line. So C, E, and D are collinear, and that's 3 points that are collinear. If you want to say 4 points that are coplanar, F is not on this plane, A is not a point, N is not a point, so we'd have to choose C, E, D, and B. The order doesn't really matter. I guess I could have went alphabetical, but that works too. Another name for segment EF is segment FE. Notice the symbol above those letters, it's very important. A ray that is endpoint E that is an opposite ray of EC. So here's EC. We want to start with E and head in the opposite direction, so we're going to call that ED. Here's a couple other things that are true in geometry. 2 lines always intersect at a point. 2 planes always intersect at a line. And a plane and a line intersect at a point. And it's kind of hard to tell from this diagram, but because of those dotted lines, they're trying to show this in 3 dimensions. This is like a pencil that is stabbing through a sheet of paper. So points that are down here or up here are not on that plane. Jumping ahead to the review, you might be asked to give another name for a plane. So B and N don't work. N is the name for this line, and B is actually a point on the plane. So you can name a plane by any 3 points that are not on the same line. Notice BAD are all on the same line. That's why you have to choose plane ABC. what segment is on line N? So they're talking about this line here, and the only 2 points that are labeled are B and C. So we're going to choose this one. If we're looking at a ray with endpoint B, that means we actually start at B and we head either in this direction or in that direction. And this is the only answer that's correct because this is not a ray. Notice that there's 2 arrows there. And these have B as the direction that we're heading. But they said the endpoint is B, so we have to start with B. Line N and segment AC, they cross here at point C. 2 planes always intersect at a line, in the same way that 2 lines always intersect at a point, and a plane and a line also always intersect at a point. And I'll jump back to give another one about coplanar points, because that can be confusing. On plane R here, C, P, A, D, and B are all on the plane. Think about this line as stabbing through a sheet of paper, and it'll be easy to see then that J and K are not on this plane. So if you're going to label the points, you could not pick J or K as being coplanar.